Emma Parker's life looked like something cut from a family magazine. Freshly brewed coffee every morning, ironed shirts laid neatly on the chair, and a warm handwritten note waiting beside Daniel's briefcase. Neighbors waved and whispered about how lucky Daniel was. Emma always smiled back, polite, composed, never giving them a reason to think otherwise. But beneath her calm gestures lived a quiet tension she couldn't name. She had begun to notice the little things first. Daniel's shoes no longer beside the door at 6. His cologne lingering in the hallway long after midnight. His phone, once left on kitchen counters without a care, now locked, always face down. "Long day?" she asked one night as he stepped in, loosening his tie. Daniel didn't meet her eyes. "Just work." "Don't start imagining things again, Emma." Again. The word stung more than his dismissal. At night, when he slept facing the wall, Emma lay awake, staring at the ceiling. She counted the seconds between his breaths, wondering when their marriage started feeling like a script she was failing to follow. She still played her part, the perfect wife. She kept the curtains open just enough to let morning sunlight touch the kitchen tiles. She set the table for 2, porcelain plates, silver forks aligned. She practiced her smile in the reflection of the microwave door before he walked in. But some mornings, when Daniel left without saying goodbye, her hands trembled as she washed the dishes. "You're overthinking this," she told herself. "All couples change. All love softens." Yet deep inside, a quiet voice whispered that something darker had taken root. She glanced at the hallway mirror before heading to bed, brushing a stray strand of hair behind her ear. Her reflection stared back, tidy, composed, but with eyes slightly swelling from sleepless nights. Outside, the world still believed in their happiness. Emma wasn't sure she did anymore, and tomorrow, she would finally ask him why he'd stopped coming home on time. Morning light filtered through the kitchen window, glinting off the untouched coffee in Emma's cup. Daniel sat across from her, scrolling through his phone, expression unreadable. The silence between them felt heavier than the words she'd been swallowing for weeks. She took a breath. "Daniel, why have you been coming home so late?" He didn't look up. "Work. It's past midnight most nights. You don't answer my calls. You don't even say goodnight anymore." Her voice wavered despite her efforts to remain calm. Daniel finally lifted his gaze, irritation clouding his eyes. "Emma, don't do this. You're being paranoid again. Again." That word echoed sharply in her mind, sharp as glass. He stood, pushing back his chair. "I don't have time for your imagination." No apology, no explanation, just a dismissive glance before he grabbed his keys and walked out the door. The front door clicked shut. Emma remained still, fingers clenched around her coffee mug until it stopped trembling. To anyone outside, their life still looked perfect. Just yesterday, Mrs. Hargrove from next door said, "You two are what marriage should be." Emma only smiled. Inside, she felt invisible. That evening, after Daniel left for another late meeting, Emma sat at her dressing table with a small leather-bound notebook. She opened to the first blank page and wrote, "He called me paranoid today. Again. I think he wants me to doubt myself." Her handwriting was neat, almost too steady. She continued, recording times he arrived home. The cold tone in his voice, the distance in his touch. It became her secret ritual. Words replaced the conversations she wished they could have. She left his dinner covered on the table, untouched by the time she returned to wash it. His empty chair stared back at her. Somewhere between the ticking clock and the quiet house, she realized loneliness could exist even while sharing a home. Before bed, she paused outside the study door where his jacket hung, faintly smelling of unfamiliar perfume. Her chest tightened. She turned away, whispering to herself, "Something is wrong," and tomorrow she would search for proof. Daniel left in a rush that morning. No coffee, no goodbye kiss, just the sharp slam of the front door. Emma stood in the hallway, breathing in the silence he left behind, when she noticed something on the console table, his phone. For a full minute, she simply stared at it. Daniel never forgot his phone. Ever. Her heart thudded in her chest as a war raged silently in her mind. Trust him. That's what a good wife would do. But another voice, quieter and colder, whispered, "He made you doubt yourself. Now find out why." She picked it up. The screen unlocked with a simple swipe. No password. Her fingers trembled as she opened the email app. No sent messages, no inbox. But a draft sat unfinished. 2LM subject. Message, it will be over soon. I promise. Emma's pulse roared in her ears. Over. What would be over? Their marriage? His life here? Or something far worse? She read it again. And again. The words blurred. She imagined some faceless woman typing back, waiting, laughing. Was it an affair? The plan to leave? Or something darker? Something that justified the coldness in his eyes lately. Her hands shook so violently she nearly dropped the phone. Footsteps echoed in her memory. His voice from last night. You're paranoid again. Maybe she wasn't. She closed the draft carefully, wiping the screen as though erasing fingerprints from a crime scene. She placed the phone back exactly where it lay before, aligning it with the edge of the table. Then she stood still, listening to the ticking clock, her breathing shallow. The house felt different now, less like a home, more like a stage where she played the role of a wife in a life that no longer belonged to her. She didn't call him. She didn't cry. Instead, she walked to her bedroom, opened her journal, and wrote the words slowly. Draft email to someone named LM, he said, "It will be over soon." Her pen hovered. I don't know what it means, but I'm afraid to find out. Downstairs, the phone buzzed once. She froze, and for the first time, she wondered what secrets their house was holding. The night after Emma found the email, sleep felt impossible. Daniel had come home late again, offered a tired smile, and kissed her forehead as though nothing in their world was cracking apart. She lay beside him, awake, her mind repeating the words. It will be over soon. The clock struck 12:17 a.m. Bang. A harsh, urgent knock rattled the front door. Emma jolted upright. Daniel was already awake, breathing heavily. Eyes wide in the dark, another knock, louder, desperate. I'll see who it is, Emma whispered, reaching for her robe. No. His voice cut through the darkness like a blade. He grabbed her wrist harder than he meant to. His hand was warm but trembling. Stay here. Daniel, someone could need help. I said stay. He was already on his feet, shoulders tense, moving silently through the hallway. Emma followed a few steps behind despite his warning. From the top of the staircase, she watched him stand motionless by the door, not opening it, just listening. The pounding stopped. Silence pressed in around them. Daniel's hand hovered over the doorknob, but he didn't turn it. After a long minute, he whispered, almost to himself, "Go back to bed, Emma." She hesitated. Who was it? He didn't answer. He simply locked the door again, deadbolt, chain, everything, and walked past her without a word. Morning light did nothing to soften the unease. Over breakfast, Emma finally asked, "About last night, who was at the door?" Daniel didn't look up from his coffee. Just a drunken neighbor, probably at the wrong house. His tone was calm, but his hand around the mug was pale from pressure. Daniel, your hands were shaking. He met her eyes then, a lingering warning in his voice. You're overthinking. Let it go. But Emma couldn't. That morning she wrote in her journal, someone came to our door after midnight. He was afraid to open it. He's hiding something. I just don't know what. Downstairs, she walked past the front door and noticed it again. 3 faint, muddy fingerprints beside the handle. And that night the knocking didn't return, but the fear did. The house was silent again, but silence no longer brought peace. Emma moved through the rooms like a guest in someone else's life, careful, watchful, afraid of what she might uncover next. Daniel had left early for work, barely touching his breakfast, his mood unreadable. To distract herself from spiraling thoughts, she began cleaning his study, something he rarely allowed. Dust had gathered on the shelves, the faint scent of his cologne lingering in the still air. Papers lay scattered across the desk, but Emma worked around them, not wanting to give him a reason to accuse her of snooping, until something slipped. A stack of folders shifted, and a small photograph slid out and landed face down on the floor. Emma froze. She bent slowly, picking it up between trembling fingers. The image showed Daniel, younger, smiling, a smile she hadn't seen in a long time. Beside him stood a woman with long dark hair, her hand resting lightly on his chest. Their faces were close, intimate, familiar. Emma's breath caught. She turned the photograph over, in neat handwriting. You promised, LM. Her skin went cold, the same initials as the email. The same invisible presence now haunting their marriage. She stared at the woman's face again, studying her features, the curve of her lips, the way she leaned into Daniel like she belonged there. This wasn't just a friend. This was someone he once loved, maybe still loved. Emma sank onto his chair, gripping the photograph so tightly the edges bent. Questions screamed inside her mind. Was she the one who knocked at midnight? Was she the reason for the email? What did he promise her? And why did he never mention her? She wanted to tear the photograph apart. Instead, she slipped it into her journal between fresh pages, leaving only a faint trace of dust on the desk where it had fallen. That evening, Daniel came home later than usual. He kissed her cheek. His smile was practiced, mechanical. Emma smiled back just as she always did. But this time, something inside her had shifted. She no longer feared the truth. She wanted it. And the next morning, someone unexpected would come searching for it too. The morning after Emma found the photograph, the air inside the house felt heavier, as though the walls themselves were holding their breath. Daniel sat at the dining table, tie perfectly straight, expression unreadable. He sipped his coffee in silence, then a knock at the door. Not frantic like before, steady, controlled. Emma opened it. A man stood on the doorstep, early 40s, neatly dressed in a dark coat. His eyes were calm, but sharp in a way that made Emma instinctively straighten her posture. "Mrs. Parker?" he asked, and yes. He held up a badge. "Detective Michael Harris. May I come in?" Daniel appeared behind her almost instantly. "Is there a problem?" The detective offered a polite smile. "Just a few questions. It won't take long." They gathered in the living room. Emma sat on the edge of the sofa. Daniel remained standing, arms crossed. Detective Harris glanced around the room briefly, noticing details Emma could tell. Family photos, wedding pictures, no photograph of the dark-haired woman. "I'm investigating a missing person," he said evenly. "Lily Morgan." Emma's heart skipped, Daniel's jaw tightened. "I don't know anyone by that name." Detective Harris didn't look away. "According to phone records and bank transactions." "You might?" Daniel forced a scoff. "Are you accusing me of something?" "Not at all. Just trying to locate her." His voice remained calm, professional. "She was last seen 3 weeks ago. Neighbors reported an argument with a man who matched your description." Emma didn't speak. She watched Daniel instead. He avoided her eyes. Detective Harris shifted slightly, turning toward Emma. "Mrs. Parker, did you ever meet Lily Morgan?" Emma's throat felt dry. "No," she whispered. But in her mind, "You promised." LM Daniel stepped forward. "This is ridiculous. I think we're done here." Harris stood but didn't leave immediately. "If you remember anything, even something small, please call." He placed a card on the table. His gaze lingered on Emma for just a second, gentle but knowing. After the door closed, silence swallowed the room. Emma finally asked, "Daniel, who is Lily?" He didn't answer. He only said, quietly but firmly, "Stay out of this," and walked away. Emma stood alone in the living room, the detective's card cold in her hand. Upstairs, in her journal, she wrote, "He lied to the police. And he lied to me." That night she heard faint creaks from the basement, and she knew something was hidden beneath their home. Daniel left the house earlier than usual the next morning. No kiss, no goodbye, just the faint echo of the front door locking behind him. Emma waited by the window, watching his car disappear down the street before allowing herself to breathe. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Detective Harris's business card still lay on the living room table. She traced her thumb over the embossed letters, debating whether to call. But something stronger than fear tugged at her. Truth. It started with a sound, a dull, hollow thud from the basement. Then silence. Emma froze. The house settled sometimes. But this was different. Metallic. Muffled. She hesitated only a second before walking toward the basement door. Each step down the wooden staircase creaked beneath her feet. The air was colder there, damp and stale. A single light bulb flickered above, casting long shadows over old boxes, tools, and paint cans. Then she heard it again, a soft tap. like something shifting beneath the floor. She followed the sound to the far corner, where an old rug lay bunched against the wall. Kneeling, she pulled it back. One of the floorboards was slightly raised. Her pulse thundered in her ears. She knelt and ran her fingers along the edge of the loose plank. It lifted with little effort, as if someone had opened it many times before. Beneath it, darkness, and a stain, not large. Just a faint rusty smear against the wood. Blood. Emma's breath hitched sharply. She recoiled, dropping the plank with a soft thud. Her hands trembled uncontrollably. Her body rooted in place while her mind screamed to run. This wasn't jealousy. This wasn't paranoia. This was danger. She scrambled to her feet, heart pounding so violently she could hear it. The basement suddenly felt smaller, like the walls were closing in. Swallowing her whole, she stumbled back up the stairs, slammed the basement door shut, and pressed her back against it, fighting for breath. In her journal, she would later write only 5 words. There is blood. I know as evening approached, she cleaned her hands, erased any trace of panic from her face, and waited for Daniel to come home. He walked through the door as if nothing had changed, but Emma had. Emma waited until nightfall. Daniel came home to a perfectly set table, a warm dinner and a wife who looked composed, too composed. He noticed. His eyes lingered on her longer than usual. After dinner, she spoke quietly. "We need to talk." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Emma, not tonight." She stood anyway. "I know about Lily." Silence. He froze halfway through removing his watch. His voice dropped. "What did you say?" Emma's hands trembled, but her voice didn't. "I know her name. I know you lied to the detective. I know there's blood in the basement." Daniel stared at her. No anger at first, only disbelief. Then something darker. He stepped closer. "Emma, listen to me. I'm done listening to excuses." He closed the distance between them. His tone softened, controlled. "You don't understand. I did it for us." Her breath caught. "What did you do?" Daniel didn't answer. His face was shadowed in the dim kitchen light, expression unreadable. "Tell me the truth," she whispered. His voice was nearly a plea. "Knowing won't make you feel safer. It'll only destroy everything we have." Emma's heart hammered painfully. "So you'd rather I stay blind?" Daniel turned away, running a hand through his hair. "Lily came back. She wanted money. She wanted to ruin us. I tried to fix it before it got worse." "Fix it." The words made her blood run cold. "So she's dead." Emma's voice cracked. "Daniel, what did you do to her?" He didn't answer, but his silence was louder than any confession. Tears blurred her vision. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you'd look at me the way you are now." They stood in the darkness between them, husband and wife, stranger and stranger. Emma swallowed hard. "I loved you." Daniel's voice softened. "I still love you. That's why you need to trust me. Don't go to the police. Not now." Emma stepped back, shaking her head. "I don't know who I'm living with anymore." Daniel's expression hardened, not with rage, but with resignation. "Then don't make me choose between protecting you and protecting us." He walked past her, the floorboards creaking under his weight as he disappeared down the hall. Emma stood alone in the dim light, tears drying on her cheeks, the echo of his words lingering like smoke. Upstairs, she opened her journal, and downstairs Daniel made a call, low, urgent. Emma didn't sleep that night. Daniel's words kept echoing in the dark. "Don't make me choose between protecting you and protecting us." Near midnight, she heard soft footsteps downstairs and the faint murmur of his voice. He was on the phone again. Emma reached into the drawer beside the bed. Her hand closed around a small voice recorder she once used for writing ideas. She hesitated only a moment before switching it on. Barefoot, she crept down the hallway, stopping just outside the study door. Daniel's voice was low, tense. "They're getting close. No, she doesn't know everything. But if she talks, everything falls apart." Emma pressed the recorder closer to the doorframe, her heart pounding so loudly she feared it might drown out his voice. "I told you I'm handling it," Daniel continued. "Just make sure no one else comes to the house." "Not after the last time." A pause. Then quieter, almost a whisper. "I did what I had to. For her, for us." Emma backed away, breath shaky. The recorder felt heavy in her hand, like proof and betrayal rolled into one. The next morning, Daniel kissed her forehead before leaving for work. His touch lingered, warm, but all Emma could feel was the cold recorder hidden beneath her sleeve. She waited until his car disappeared. Then she walked out the door too. Detective Harris opened his office door, surprised to see her. "Mrs. Parker?" Emma's voice trembled. I need you to hear something." She placed the recorder on his desk and pressed play. Daniel's voice filled the room. Calm, calculating, unmistakable. Harris listened without interrupting. When it ended, he looked at Emma with quiet gravity. "This is serious. Are you prepared for what comes next?" Emma's throat burned. "I don't know." "Once this starts," he said gently, "there's no going back." She stared at the recorder. Her husband's voice. Her husband's secrets. Love and fear tore her in two. Finally, she whispered, "I just want the truth." Detective Harris leaned back, reaching for a file. "Then we'll get it." Outside, the sky darkened with an impending storm, and far from the station, Daniel's phone buzzed. Unaware his world had begun to unravel, Detective Harris dimmed the lights in the small interview room. A thin file sat between him and Emma. He opened it slowly, as though giving her one last chance to walk away. "You told me you want the truth," he said quietly. "Then you need to know everything." Inside the file were photographs, grainy images of an abandoned cabin deep in the woods. Police tape, a broken lamp, a smear of blood at the edge of a wooden table. Lily Morgan wasn't just someone Daniel knew. Harris continued. She was his ex-fiancée. Emma's breath caught. They were engaged before he met you. When he broke things off, she disappeared from his life. Until 3 months ago. Emma stared at the photos, hands cold against the metal table. "She contacted Daniel," Harris said. "She threatened to expose him for financial fraud he committed years ago. He was forging company accounts. She had proof." Emma squeezed her eyes shut. Daniel's late nights, secret calls, the shaking hands at the midnight knock. "He met her at that cabin," Harris went on, voice steady. "According to him, things got out of control. She attacked him. He pushed her. She hit her head," Emma whispered. "So he killed her?" "He says it was an accident," Harris replied. "But he didn't call for help. He hit her, buried her somewhere we still haven't found." Her chest tightened, as though the room had lost all its air. Harris slid forward another photograph. Daniel and Lily, smiling together. The same picture Emma kept hidden in her journal. "He claims he did it for you, for your future. That if Lily exposed him, he'd lose everything." Tears blurred her vision. "He lied to me. Every day. He made me feel crazy." Harris nodded slowly. "Emma, this is your choice now. You can testify or stay silent." She pressed a hand to her mouth, fighting a sob. The man she loved. The man who held her hand every night. The man who buried truths under floorboards and whispered love like a weapon. Finally, her voice broke through the silence. "I'll testify." Harris gave a quiet nod. Outside, rain began to fall. Emma walked out of the station, the world around her muted and gray. Her heart felt like shattered glass, sharp, irreparable. She knew there was no going back, and at home, Daniel was already waiting. Rain fell the morning of the trial, steady and cold, like the world itself was holding its breath. Emma sat in the witness room, palms pressed together, the faint smell of disinfectant and old paper thick in the air. Her name was called. She walked into the courtroom. Daniel sat at the defense table, hands cuffed in front of him. He looked different now, tired, pale, no longer the composed husband who kissed her forehead each morning. When their eyes met, something inside her trembled. Betrayal, sadness, love, all tangled. The prosecutor asked her to state her name. Her voice didn't waver. "Emma Parker." Then came the questions. About the late nights. About the phone calls. About the photograph of Lily Morgan. About the blood beneath the floorboards. Finally, about the tape recorder. Every word felt like ripping stitches from an old wound. Daniel watched her in silence, jaw tense, eyes dark. When she spoke of Lily, his gaze broke, not in anger, but in a quiet, aching kind of despair. The defense attorney stood. "Mrs. Parker, do you still love your husband?" Emma hesitated. The courtroom went silent. Even the rain seemed to pause. "Yes," she whispered. But love doesn't erase the truth. A murmur rippled through the room. Later, Daniel was asked to speak. He stood slowly. I never meant to hurt her. Either of them, but Lily, she was going to destroy everything. I thought I could fix it. For Emma, his voice cracked as he looked at her. I never wanted you to see me like this. Emma swallowed hard but said nothing. The verdict came after 3 long days. Guilty. Daniel closed his eyes. No tears. Just a final glance at Emma. One last conversation in silence. As he was led away, he whispered, barely audible, I'm sorry. Emma didn't move, didn't speak. She simply watched the man she once thought she knew disappear behind a closing door. Weeks later, the house was quiet again. Dusty frames still held wedding photos. The journal lay open on her lap. She wrote slowly, each word heavy and final. Love didn't die. It transformed into truth, and truth demands a price. She closed the journal. Outside, the rain had stopped. The world carried on, unchanged, unaware. Inside, Emma stood alone at the window, no longer the perfect wife, but finally, honest.